Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. Who am I? I am your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around the virtual water cooler as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good things. And as your proverbial child comes home from Halloween and reaches into the big sack of goodness, he pulls out a giant chocolate bar of happiness, known as Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
Wow, John, I think that we should market a giant chocolate bar of happiness.
Because you don't want to pull out a bag of peanuts. Like when you're a kid on Halloween, you don't want to pull out toothpaste. I did that. By the way, when I was a kid, there was seriously a house that would give out like toothpaste and little toothbrushes. And God bless them. I know they meant well, but fuck those guys. I mean, I know they meant well, but anyway, so don't be those guys come October, everybody. Don't be those guys. Hey, listen, what are you going to say there, Rob?
Well, Halloween is not the night that you want to be trying to make a point to drive home to children.
No, it is not.
They're not going to be a receptive audience.
No, no, they're not.
No, do it any other night of the year.
Not on Halloween. Hey, listen, guys, we do have a lot of stuff to talk about here today, an awful lot. But before we do a little bit of house cleaning, I want to let you guys know about a couple things. Number one, we're letting people know for the next couple of weeks that the John Campea Show podcast version is back up. Our Patreon supporters, the audio-only podcast was just for our Patreon supporters, but I asked our Patreon supporters back in 2019, what would you think if we let everybody in on this? Because a lot of fans have been asking for it, and our Patreon supporters said, yeah, let's let everybody in on it. And so that's what we did. The podcast is now back up and running. We have hit the iTunes charts and everything. It's been a great relaunch. So, for those times that you can't be here to watch the show, which is the full experience is really watching the YouTube video. But for those times that you can't, like you're on the road, you're driving, you're on a treadmill, whatever, that podcast is there for you. I want to let you guys know about one other thing as well. I've had a lot of people ask me, and now I am going to be doing a video on a behind the scenes of how an episode of the John Campea Show gets put together, from all the gear, the process, and all that kind of stuff. That is going to happen. It's going to take some time to put it together, but it is going to happen. But in the meantime, I've had a lot of people over the years ask me like for a gear list, and so I've put together a gear list. Now I'm smart. I put together a gear list in the form of Amazon affiliate links. But I did put together a gear list. If you guys are interested in all the gear and all the things that I use, you want to see a list of all the stuff that I use to make an episode of the John Campea Show, go over to thejohncampeashow.com/shop. So that's thejohncampeashow.com/shop, and you will see a full list of all the different gear and a little description of what I use it for, and all the different things that go into making an episode of the show. And I'm actually going to be updating this every once in a while with also some cool things that I find and things that I'm using. And, for instance, the hat that I wear, I'll update with stuff like that. So if you're interested in all the gear that I use, that's why I use it. Now, if you do happen to click on one of the links and get some of the stuff that I use, I'm going to let you go. I do put this up as Amazon affiliate links, full disclosure, and I would probably get a little bit of a commission. So go spend $5 million on that. I would be very grateful about that. All right, guys. With all that down, we've got a lot of stuff to cover here today. We have an awful lot of stuff to cover here today. And the first thing we're going to talk about is this. Rob, one of the more popular things in the world of streaming, certainly the thing that got Disney Plus up and running, was, of course, the show The Mandalorian. And most of us loved it. I had a very good time. Not every show was gold, but for the most part, I really enjoyed that series, and I think a lot of people did. Well, in the midst of these harsh times where we can't go to the movie theaters, we're looking for content to consume, it's just been announced this morning. Disney sent out a press release announcing that Disney Plus is going to be streaming an 8-part documentary series on The Mandalorian. An 8-part documentary series. In other words, Rob, depending on the length of each one of these parts, this documentary series about The Mandalorian is going to be longer than the show The Mandalorian, which is kind of funny when you think about that. But Rob, when you consider all the technology and the way they pulled that show off and the popularity it had launching Disney Plus, I think this is a great idea. Because we all ate up that short YouTube thing that showed their stagecraft stuff. And that was exciting. To see a full documentary series on it could be a lot of fun, although it is kind of funny that it might end up being longer than the show was. But anyway, Rob, you heard about this. You think it's a good idea for them to release this? What do you think?
Well, I think it's great. It's going to be 8 episodes. I would imagine they'll probably do an episode on each show. And I love, me, John, as somebody who's been spending the last month creating hours of special features for a Blu-ray release. I love it when we get behind the scenes documentaries about the making of our favorite entertainment. And there's not enough of it these days. It's kind of gone away. So this to me is the big giant chocolate bar from Halloween that you talked about in the beginning of the episode today. This is like that. It's not me bringing it to you. It's Disney, and good for them. That's exactly what I want out of Disney Plus. I think it's a great move. It might not be new episodes of The Mandalorian itself, but I think everybody's going to tune in and watch. I think it's shrewd. Bring it on, son.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too. So question is, guys, what do you think about it? Are you looking forward to this documentary series? Are you thinking, well, why would you have an 8-part documentary series on a series that was 1 season, 8 episodes? I don't know. Maybe that's what you're thinking, but jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Let's move on to our second off the top, and that is this. Speaking of us all kind of being bottled up and stuck at home and all that kind of stuff, and desperately just looking forward to getting back to the movie theaters and restaurants and things of our regular habits, as you will, there's been a lot of speculation about when the movie theaters might be able to reopen again and open their doors. Some people think sooner rather than later. Some people think later rather than sooner. Well, in a report that just came out in the last couple of days, a representative for the North American theater owners has come out and said that the movie theater chains themselves are currently talking about and doing the initial planning for reopening their movie theaters come mid to late July. Now, if you're like me, your first reaction to that is like, that seems unlikely, but do keep in mind, a friend of mine reminded me about this, do keep in mind that, number one, that is still 2 months away. That's still 2 months away from now. Also, we have a lot of governors talking about they may be ready, or they're in the planning stages of when to reopen the economy as well. We've seen in a number of the hardest hit states that the curve has been flattening, so that's good. So it might still be a little overly optimistic to think mid to late July, but it does seem to be what is being discussed right now. I, for one, would be thrilled if the circumstances warrant it, and as long as it's not too much of a threat or too much of a risk to do so. And if that's what they say at the time, then great. I think it would be great. If they need to wait longer, by all means, wait longer. What we don't want to have happen here, Rob, is to open the doors too soon. We don't want to open the doors too soon just to have to close them again, 2 weeks later. But if they can do it, and we're in a position where they feel like it's a relatively safe thing to do at that point, and the government's on board with it, and the health professionals say, yeah, we're at a point that maybe we can start looking at doing this. Hey man, mid to late July sounds good to me. But anyway, obviously health comes first, but you hear about this, given the current circumstances, all that stuff. Do you think it's an okay move for at least the theaters to at least at this point be strategizing that as an opening date and pushing it if they need to? What do you think about it?
Well, I think, look, absolutely, you should be strategizing. You should always be planning for any contingency. I mean, I think about the worst calamities that happened to humanity. I think World War II being one of the biggest. It eventually ended. The war ended. Hundreds of millions of people died, but it ended. And we got out of it, and we're where we are now. This, too, will end. For me, there's only one question, and that is, watching all the TV that I've watched, it's all about finding out where the disease is and who has it. It all comes down to testing. And we've seen this happen in South Korea. You test people, you know who has the disease, who doesn't. The people that don't have the disease go back into quarantine. The people who don't have the disease can go about their daily lives. And we don't have that yet. And hopefully, over the next 2 months, we'll get that. But until we do that, we're not going to know. And I think it's really contingent on, it should all go hand in hand. Opening businesses have to go hand in hand with testing, because we don't want another flare up. We stay sequestered for months at a time. And if we haven't isolated and know where the disease is, it'll jump back. But I absolutely believe that you have to start planning many different contingencies of how to open the economy. And it does, John, maybe that's why they haven't moved Tenet off its date yet. Because there's a movie that if they can see the curve flatten, look, we had more deaths yesterday in a lot of places where the curve has been flattening. And I know that Boston and Massachusetts, they're expecting their peak not to come for another couple weeks yet. So it's going to also be regional. Maybe California will be able to open, California, Oregon, and Washington will be able to open movie theaters. Now, I don't know. The question that I have is, are studios going to wait until you can open theaters in all of North America, or would they be open to regional if the coastal states, if Washington, Oregon, and California can open their theaters? Movies used to open across the country. They would open in, say, New York and Los Angeles, and they would have regional rollouts for 6 months or even a year across the rest of the country. That has changed, but maybe we'll see a return to what we used to see in, say, the 70s and 80s. That might be interesting. I don't know if they would do that, because then they can't put up the kind of box office numbers they get when you get to open a North American release in one. I mean, I don't know if they'll do that. I really don't. Maybe businesses, like if you borrowed money from a bank, I don't know if they're going to like regional rollouts over 6 months. They want to get that huge influx of cash to get those interest payments in the bank. But it's interesting. We're in uncharted territory, so I think planning is good.
All right, guys, question here is, what do you think about that? Do you think right now it's prudent to at least be in the planning stages for reopening come mid-July, still 2 months away? Do you think it might be premature to do that? Obviously, the thing that trumps all of this will be, is it going to be safe at that time to do so? But in the meantime, should they at least be planning? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, with that down, let's move on to another off-the-top topic, and that one is this. Rob, kind of going hand in hand with that last issue we just discussed about the theaters planning on reopening, of course, has been the ongoing drama and saga of AMC theaters and what's been going on with them at every twist and turn. We've heard about how badly they were hurting. Bankruptcy may be forthcoming. And the really sad thing was that it had nothing to do with it being AMC's fault. This was just a bad situation that happened, and they're just falling victim to it. Well, amidst all the talk of bankruptcy, which could offer them some protections, but also remember, declaring bankruptcy as a big corporation like that also carries some big negatives that will hurt them long term if they do it. In the midst of all this talk, the company WANDA. Now, WANDA is the Chinese company that at one point, while I was still working at AMC Theaters, WANDA was the company that bought AMC Theaters. They later divested themselves down to about 60% of the ownership of it. They have since, due to Chinese regulations, they've reduced their ownership even more. They are no longer the owners of AMC Theaters, but they are the largest shareholders. I think they own about 38% of AMC or something like that. But WANDA has come out on their official website and put out a very direct statement that simply said, it was short and sweet, any talk, any reports about AMC going to bankruptcy is pure rumor. So you have the largest shareholder of AMC Theaters right now saying, we are not going to be going into bankruptcy. We're not going to declare bankruptcy. Now, again, there could be situations here where bankruptcy is absolutely the best thing in the world for them because it could offer them some protections. But at the same time, bankruptcy also has some long-term negative effects on your company as well. Rob, does the fact that WANDA, again, the largest shareholder, they're not the owners of the company, but they are the largest shareholders, does them saying that give us a little bit of insight that maybe they themselves are going to infuse the company with a bunch more cash, or maybe they and other shareholders are in talk with other investment companies? Like, does this indicate either A, does it just indicate wishful thinking? Or B, does this indicate maybe to us that there is behind the scenes movement on this and they are going to figure out one way or the other, come out the other side of this? How do you interpret this?
Well, not being a banker and not having any knowledge of this, but just speaking as I think from a common sense perspective, there's still large shareholders, as you pointed out, in AMC, and AMC is not an iffy company. I mean, in the history of movies, people just never once decided, we're not going to go to movies anymore. You know, movies are a healthy business, and I think that there's no reason why AMC, that, as you pointed out yesterday, has been building up their business, expanding, renovating their theaters, starting A-list, doing all the kinds of things that a movie theater chain should be doing. It's in a great position. When this coronavirus has passed us by, when the wave has slammed into the beach and gone back out to sea, movie theaters are going to do big business again. So it's like, look, you don't sell all your shares of a decent stock in a bear market. One day it's going to go back up. That's what investors do. They ride the waves of tumult that comes with investing. And I think AMC Theaters is a good bet. It's not some crazy startup that you don't know if the technology is going to work or not. This is a tried and true business, and moviegoers have been around for more than a century. So it makes sense to me that if they have the cash and they can prop up the company for at least 3 or 4 more months and ride out this storm, then I think it's a good bet. I like hearing it. I don't know if it's true. I hope it is.
Yeah, me too, man, because it would be great. Because I think you're right. We've talked about this before, though. If AMC can just hold on, just stay alive, hold on until those reopens, and like months like October, November do come, when you're going to get a lot of big movies and the money will start to flow and it'll put them in a much better situation. Hopefully what Wanda is saying right now is going to be an indication that maybe there's going to be some help to get them to that point. So we'll have to wait and see. Question here is, guys, what do you think? We're hearing the largest shareholder of AMC saying, no, bankruptcy is just rumors. Does that give you some hope, or is that them just playing a PR game? What do you think about it? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. One last off the top here. You'd figure in the lockdown, Rob, we'd be struggling to find things to talk about. We're just loaded with topics today. Okay. So one last thing off the top, and that is this. Uh-oh. Rob, one of my favorite moments ever in the MCU is that moment in the first Avengers film when Captain America looks to Hulk and says, "Hulk, smash." Hulk smiles, and then we got the Hulk. I still remember being in the movie theater, the first time ever watching that movie, and Hulk going nuts and just wiping fools out everywhere. It was the first time we got to see the Hulk on the big screen that we always wanted to see. That type of pure savage rage and just destroying fools left, right, and center. And the theater just exploded, and I loved it. But Hulk has also been one of the more problematic properties for the MCU. They've been able to use him as a secondary character in a lot of stuff, used very effectively in Thor Ragnarok, by the way. But they haven't been able to, because of the rights problems that they have between them and Universal Studios, they haven't been willing to make another Hulk movie because they don't want Universal to distribute it. They want to distribute it themselves, but they can't do that right now due to the rights. So it's always left the character of the Hulk in a very kind of precarious position, if you will. What do you do with him? How far do you go? But we all love Hulk. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, as somebody who really liked Infinity War and Endgame, I was not a fan of how they used Hulk in those two movies. I was not a fan of how they used Hulk. That's probably my biggest problem with it. I loved everything else, it's fine, but I wasn't a fan of how they wussified Hulk. But still, moving forward in the MCU, looking forward to what they're going to do. Well, sad news, if you're like me and you really want to see a lot more Hulk in the MCU, right now it sounds like there are no future plans for Hulk. Now, in a new interview, this just came out this morning, featured on Variety, with actor Mark Ruffalo, who of course plays Banner/Hulk. He basically said that right now there's no plans for Hulk to be in anything moving forward. This is specifically what he had to say. He said the following: "There's nothing completely at a place where it's a done deal," Ruffalo said in an interview for Variety recent cover story. "There's some talk of having Banner/Hulk show up in She-Hulk if we come up with something good. That would really be interesting, but right now, that's it. There is nothing else on the table. That's all there is on the table." And Rob, I got to tell you, for somebody like me, who is a big fan of this character and Mark Ruffalo playing him and all that kind of stuff, this is discouraging to me, because we know if there's nothing on the table, that means we are not going to see Hulk. Like, maybe something happens. Maybe something happens with She-Hulk. But even that doesn't sound like it's a sure thing. And we know Kevin Feige has got the next number of years already planned out. And Ruffalo's like, nah, there's no Hulk. It sounds like if nothing happens to She-Hulk, we could be going 3 more years, 4 more years, 5 more years without seeing the Hulk again in the MCU. Rob, there's a lot of goodness coming in the MCU, but this idea makes my heart sad. But Rob, you hear this. Are you surprised to hear this? Are you like, you know what? Nah, they kind of moved on from, I mean, Thor's still around, but they moved on from Cap. They moved on from Iron Man, and we all know they're coming back at some point. But I don't know. What did you think about this when you heard Ruffalo say this?
Well, as much as I see Hulk as part of the core group of the MCU Avengers, Black Widow's dead, Cap's out, Iron Man's out. All we have is Thor because he's a god. And I could see Hulk being out as well. I mean, it's not surprising to me because it's important. They really need to bring in new characters to move those characters to the forefront of the action. And I think that they're going to do that. They're going to bring in new characters. They're going to develop new scenarios, new situations. And I think they've always got the Hulk to come back and put him on the reserve team. But he'll be brought off the bench eventually. Everyone loves the Hulk. And he's had such a great role. Hulk has never been forefront. He's always been a supporting member of the team. And he's worked really well that way. And a lot of people didn't like, watching Endgame again recently, I really loved what they did with Professor Hulk and what Ruffalo was doing. And I know everybody wants to get back to that Hulk smash, but I think when they bring Hulk back, it's going to be that much more of a treat. I'm sorry to see him sidelined for a while, but I am really looking forward to seeing new characters like the Eternals being brought into the MCU, and I think we're going to see a lot of really interesting characters. So when we go back to Hulk, it's going to be that much sweeter. But it is kind of a bummer that we won't see him for a while.
Yeah, there are moments, I will admit, there are moments of Professor Hulk in Endgame, like time travel. There are moments of Professor Hulk in Endgame that I do like. But I guess overall, to me, when you go back, we've talked about this before, when you go to the original Avengers movie, and, Hulk was the nuclear threat. The whole basis even of Loki's plan was plant the monster on the thing, right? Because that is your uncontrollable, unstoppable, unrelenting nuclear threat. You cannot let the monster out of the bottle. It was the biggest thing. And then gradually, after we moved past Ultron and stuff like that, you just saw them start to diminish Hulk more and more, to the point where, he's one of the guys with his little shriveled up arm running into the battle when the portal scene happens, but you really get no moment for Hulk. Thor got tons of moments. Cap got some glorious moments. Iron Man got his moments. Okoye and Black Widow got their moments. Wanda got her moments. Hulk didn't get his moment. And, he's one of the original things, and that's always... It's saddened me, Rob. It's saddened me. Not angered, but it's saddened me. I hope to see more Hulk, and I hope to see them get back to real Hulk. I don't know. That's just me, I suppose.
I don't disagree with you, man.
It'd just be so fun to see. Anyway, guys, question is, what do you think about Mark Ruffalo's statement? Is part of you sad like me, or is part of you like, you know what? We've had Hulk in a lot of films. It is time to move on. Maybe that's how you feel about it. Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With all that down and out of the way, let's now move into our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by going anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Bradley Dowler, who writes, I wanted to know your thoughts on reading books before they are adapted into movies. So, as a comic book reader, I'm usually pretty familiar with the material featured in comic book movies. This is not the case, though, with Dune. I am so hyped for the movie, so much so that I purchased the novel not long ago and am currently reading it. However, I am slightly worried that by reading the book that I run the risk of not enjoying the movie as much, or maybe even the other way around. Should I read the book first or wait and judge the movie on its own merits? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, the topic of novelizations being turned into movies and how do we handle that as fans has been around for a very, very long time. And of course, it's a very relevant one right now with Dune coming out. Of course, yesterday, Rob, we had a chance to look at those Dune images, which made me very happy. So we and I both thought those were great. But it does raise the big question about, should you read the books first, all that kind of stuff. Let me tell you my position on this, because I have a feeling you're going to have a different point of view on this than I do. But here's my thought on this. I am kind of the belief that no. I actually have a rule for myself. I will not watch or read a book if I know the movie is coming out. If I know there's a movie coming and there's a novelization, I will not read the book, because for me personally, I want my first clean experience with the story to be what the filmmakers are giving me on the big screen. Because ultimately what I find happens, Rob, and not everybody agrees, but what I find happens is when you read the book first, your own imagination fills in the blanks. Your own imagination paints the pictures about what that character looks like, how this scene came across, what does this person sound like. But on top of all that, an important thing to understand is that books can be like 700 pages long. A screenplay is going to be about 200 pages long, or not even, like less than that, probably about 150 pages, 140 pages long. So that means there's going to be a bunch of stuff that's left out of a movie that is in a book, because you have to adapt and all that kind of stuff. And what I find quite often is that we as individuals, our thing that we have the first experience with becomes our standard. And the other thing, whatever comes after our first experience, has to match up. Not be better or worse, but has to be equal, has to match up. And if it doesn't match up, then we feel a natural sense of disappointment. I've talked to a lot of people, Rob, who have seen a movie first and then later read the books and thought the books were disappointing. Whereas people who read the books first, then watched the movie, all thought the movie was disappointing. You know what I mean? So for that in and of itself, I believe the best approach normally is to not read the book first. When it comes to Dune specifically, I really feel that, because we've already heard Denis Villeneuve said, yeah, he's going to be making some changes, particularly with some characters and things like that he feels need to be adapted in order to come across properly on the screen and stuff like that. So my personal recommendation, by all means, hold on to that book and read it once you see the movie. But I say watch the movie first. Rob, you are not only a big movie guy, clearly, but you are a big book guy as well. What are your thoughts on this in general and specifically as it applies to this upcoming movie, Dune?
Well, I've always thought of the experience of reading books and watching movies to be very, very different. And I'll give you one instance. Music. Music is a way to affect a person's emotions, a way to affect your mood, a way to a good bass, a good low rumbling, low frequency, and a French a tuba. Music can't exist in a movie. You can, I guess, imagine it, but music adds a whole new dimension to storytelling. And I just think that the difference between storytelling in a movie, on a movie screen, and in a book is very, very different. You have to, it's a very different experience. I mean, movie going is you're watching things obviously up on a screen. In a book, you can describe how a character is feeling, but you can never really know, like if a character's sitting at a cafe in a book, for instance, mostly that cafe is whatever it is in your imagination. But in a movie, you have to see that cafe. So to me, I've always been able to completely differentiate the experiences. And what I mostly concentrate on is the story, is the spirit of the story that was conveyed in the book retained in a movie. Like, you can change the details, but if the spirit of the story is there, that's what adaptation is all about. Like, there's a lot of Tolkien purists who are like, well, Tom Bombadil is not in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I'm like, yeah, you could get caught up on those details, but the spirit of the Lord of the Rings books is definitely retained in Peter Jackson's movies. And I think that's what's most important. And I see them both as two different experiences that can be enjoyable. However, a book can definitely be diminished by a movie. And a movie, if you see a movie first, might disappoint people who later read the book because of the way it's adapted. So
I see there's good and bad points to it, but I would never not. I've always preferred reading the book first, and I have found in my own life that it's helped me have a more holistic understanding of the story that's being told. I remember I reread Silence of the Lambs before I saw the movie, and I was disappointed in the movie because so much of the book is left out. But over the years, I've come to grips with the fact that, oh, okay, I still love Silence of the Lambs, the movie, and I still love the book, but I've made my peace with it. But I think it's always better to have read the book first, because it just gives you a richer appreciation of the story being told.
All right, I knew you would. So guys, here the question is for you. How would you answer that, both in general? Should you read the book first before the movie? Specifically, how do you think that applies to Dune as it's coming out? Do you feel like I do, that actually reading the book can just set you up for a lot of expectations and disappointment? Are you like Rob, that you feel like reading the book first gives you a deeper, richer experience? What do you think about that? What's your personal philosophy on it? Jump down into the comment section below. Know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Aidan D, who writes, "Hi everyone. Have you seen that all over the place announcements saying Venom 2 trailer coming tomorrow have been popping up? It seems like Sony is really debating putting a trailer out there, not knowing if the film can release on time. Do you think Sony has a trailer ready and is waiting for the right time, or do you think all this trailer nonsense is fake?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, listen, I'm not going to apologize for it. One of the movies I am really looking forward to this year is Venom 2. The first Venom came out, and it delighted me more than I thought it would. I thought it was a very fun movie. Do I put it on the level of a Dark Knight or Avengers or anything, or Man of Steel? No, clearly not. But I was delighted by it. I had a lot of fun. I thought Tom Hardy played it great. I thought the action was a lot of fun and wonderful. There was a lot of very good humor in it that had me laughing a lot. To this day, Anne still says chocolate and tater tots. So that's something that still kind of plays out here. Now, we heard last week rumors and rumblings of a Venom trailer that leaked, and some descriptions of that trailer came out. Now, the validity of that is still unknown. I have no idea if those things are valid or not, but I myself heard through some indirect channels that there was indeed a Venom 2 trailer coming. Now, nothing has come of that so far. Let's start with the first question. Does a Venom trailer right now exist? Oh, I 100% believe a Venom trailer is already done. Of that, I have no doubt. Like, at this point in the process, take the lockdown and that situation out of it entirely. At this point, a trailer would be ready. So I have no doubt that a Venom trailer 100% does exist. But Rob, as you and I talked about on this show the other day, does Sony right now 100% know when this movie's coming out? And that's the thing. I don't think they know. They don't know when this movie's going to come out. I don't know if they know if it's going to make its release date, if it's going to be in December, if it's going to be March of 2021. I just don't think they know yet. Now, I think in the coming days, they're going to start to get a better idea of that. But in the meantime, they're faced with a situation that I don't think you can put a trailer out if you don't know when the movie, because look, we've talked a lot about the Godzilla King of the Monsters situation. They clearly blew their hype load way too early. And I don't think Sony wants to get caught with their pants down like that. I don't think they want to put out the trailer now and then realize, we've moved the movie to June of 2021. And then all the buzz, all the hype of the first trailer was wasted and dissipates. So I think, number one, I think the trailer is there. I think it's out there. I think it exists. But I don't think we're going to see it until Sony has a grasp on when this movie's coming out. And that could be soon. It could be soon. Could be today. Could be next week. Who knows? But that's where I think the status of it is right now. Rob, number one, do you think that Sony has already had a trailer ready to go for this thing? And when do you think might be a chance we might actually get our chance to lay our eyes on it?
Well, I do think, now as soon as footage starts coming in from a movie, they start thinking about how they're going to design a trailer. And I think for sure, I mean, it's April. They were shooting this movie 6 months ago, weren't they, back in October, November? And we're mid-April right now, so I think for sure they were designing a trailer, thinking about a trailer. There's probably visual effect shots done for the trailer, but like you said, all bets are off, and all of these other movies that have been moved off their release dates have been pushed into the future. So we have to see how that shakes out. Like this is a potential billion-dollar movie for Sony. In fact, this is probably their biggest movie that they have coming out right now. It's first up on deck, and they want to make sure that when this marketing campaign drops, it drops at the right time. And right now, I don't think that anybody is well served dropping movie trailers now necessarily, because everything is sort of paused. And you want trailers to also play in front of big movies that are sort of in the same genre, or you go see an action movie, you want to show a Carnage trailer, or a Venom trailer. You go to a superhero movie, you want to show. I'm sure they were probably planning on dropping a trailer in front of Black Widow. That's what I would have imagined. And Black Widow was supposed to come out May 1st. And I'm sure they had a trailer ready to go, because why wouldn't they? It's a Marvel movie, even though it comes from Sony. I mean, they've got a good relationship. You think they weren't going to put a Carnage? Why do I keep saying Carnage? A Venom trailer, a Venom 2 trailer in front of Black Widow? I mean, Eternals, that's the next obvious place to drop it in front of a Marvel film, but that wasn't until November. Now you've pushed back. I would assume they'll release the trailer back, then in November. What's the rush? They don't know when the movie's coming out, so keep the plan. Black Widow moved, so did our trailer.
But we don't know when the Venom movie is moving to.
No.
I mean, the Venom could come out before Black Widow ever hits theaters. I mean, that's the question right now. But also, there's got to be something to be said here too about, man, a lot of these studios are doing some things like, hey, everybody's stuck at home, free HBO right now. Everybody's stuck at home. Hey, we're going to put this out right now. Man, it would be fun to have a Venom trailer drop right now. I got to say, it's just something to whet the appetite and get me excited. Now would just be a really good time, but logistically it is problematic, I understand. Guys, question here for you is this. What do you think about this whole thing about a Venom 2 trailer? Do you think it's time for them to drop it? Do you think, you got to be smart. You got to wait till you know when the movie's coming out. Do you think it's going to come out sooner rather than later? What do you guys think? Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Raud Rava, who writes, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, Raud Rava, I'm sorry about that. Greetings to all of you from India. Well, thank you for writing from India. Firstly, I want to tell you I love your show. Thank you so much. I'm a big Nolan fan. So I wanted to know Tenet being the only major movie yet to move its release date, don't you think it would be a good move to postpone the movie till next year, as the November and December slate is already looking too much jam-packed? Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work and stay safe. All right, thanks for sending that in, man. And yes, of course, one of the big movies that everybody's excited about is, of course, Christopher Nolan's new film, Tenet. They already dropped like a behind-the-scenes look. We got to look at a first trailer. Everybody got hyped. Of course, we got the new Batman, Robert Pattinson, in there. We got Denzel Washington's kid kicking it up in there. And it all looks really good, and we're excited. Now, as of right now, officially, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Rob, officially, Tenet has not moved its release date. It is still officially set for July. But I don't think you need to be a rocket scientist to know that at some point they're going to move this movie. It's going to move off July, because even if the movie theaters do open at that time, it's going to be too early for them to try to mount up a big, massive marketing campaign, get everybody back into the theaters again. It's going to take a little bit of a rollout time, I think, and that's if the theaters are open again in July, as, the theaters seem to think they might be. Even then, it'll take some time. So the question then becomes, where do you move this movie to? Do you push it off just a little bit, like we hope so, and say put it in a November? Do you push it off a lot more and put it into something like February, March, April of 2021, something none of us want to see? I mean, maybe they have to, but none of us want to see. Of course, we would all love to see them keep it relatively close, move it to November. Okay, great. But that poses a problem. Rob, we talked about this the other day, that November is already getting a little bit cozy. We got the Pixar film Soul. We got Black Widow. We got Godzilla King of the Monsters, or Godzilla vs. Kong. We've got, what was the other one that just moved there? James Bond, No Time to Die, all opening in November. Now, Rob, we talked yesterday about the fact that, hey, you know what? We kind of feel that considering the movie going will just be ramping back up again, people are going to be hungry to be in the theaters. We kind of felt comfortable that all those movies can still do well in a month of November, even with all those other ones. Okay. What if we push our luck even more and try to squeeze in a Christopher Nolan Tenet into November? Then it changes the dynamic a little bit. So let me ask you this, Rob. You're the head of Warner Brothers. You got to move this thing. You've already started a marketing campaign, so you don't want to push this thing off too much, but do you push this thing out in November and December, or do you push it off further into 2021? What would you do, and what do you think is the most likely thing to happen?
Well, I mean, this is one of my most eagerly awaited films of the year, certainly. I think maybe you save it. This is such, I think, an eagerly awaited movie, and it's Christopher Nolan. I mean, the guy makes his art film Dunkirk, and even that was a huge success for Warner Brothers. This is a crown jewel in their release slate. And I think that you give it a wide berth and throwing it into November now when everyone's already staked a claim. I mean, I don't know what you do with this because 2021's filling up too. I think maybe you move it far enough into the future that you can really plant a flag and say, nope, maybe it gets delayed a year. Or not.
I'm going to tell you what, and maybe it's just being overly optimistic and overly hopeful of me. I think you can put this in November. I really do. I think because it's a very different kind of film from a lot of the other ones that we're talking about in November. Plus, when we get into December, we often talk about 4 or 5 huge movies opening on the same week, let alone in the same month. And I think, and like part of this is just the fanboy in me that I want Tenet now. Yes, part of that is just the little fanboy in me now, but I really do think you could do this in November. I'm not saying they will, but I really think they could do it in November. But Rob, here's the question we haven't asked yet. I think I know what both of us are going to say here, but here's the question we haven't asked yet. Is there any chance, Warner Brothers hasn't announced a change of date yet. Do you think there's any chance that Warner Brothers just digs in their heels and say, nope, we've planted our flag. We're going to release in July, come hell or high water? I mean, obviously not if the theaters aren't open, but I mean, do you think there's any chance they actually open in July? I say no. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think you can't open a movie like this in July, even if, like we've talked about the marketing of this film, it would have to start now. We're halfway into April, and I think people have I forgot that I saw that great opening for Tenet. You need time. You need time to build up the hype. I mean, we're in the movie pundit space. The general public doesn't know this movie's coming out. They don't know. You don't even know what Tenet means. So it's like you need time to. We've seen some really interesting visuals, cars moving forward in time while others seemingly are moving backward in the same shot. I mean, there's some really innovative effects technology happening in this movie, and they want to ramp this stuff up. Also, another thing is, this is the kind of movie that they would put in advertising and marketing in sporting events.
Yeah.
This is like and we don't have any of that. And it's like all of these outlets that movies of this ilk would be marketed to or marketed from don't exist right now. So it's not just putting movie ads directed to moviegoers who are going to go see this movie anyway, like us opening weekend. It's also the people that don't traditionally go to movies, 10 times a year, but go to 1 or 2 movies a year. They want people, the football crowd, the baseball crowd, the basketball crowd, people that love sports, NASCAR, whatever, all of those people are going to want to go see this movie. And they don't have any of that. They have no way to market to that audience. And that's something else that we just don't have now. So it's not just movies, it's everything else that the public goes to. And it's everything else that your potential audience is gathered together to see a trailer. I mean, that's why they put movie trailers in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, the question here is, guys, for you. What do you think? Do you think Nolan, first of all, Nolan's film Tenet will probably bump it. Maybe you don't think it will, but if it does bump, let's assume it's going to. Do you keep it in 2020 or do you push it into 2021? What do you think is going to happen? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 4. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Robert Sabo, who writes, "Hi, John and Rob. 2-3 months ago, there was a rumor that Sam Raimi is in talks to direct the new Doctor Strange movie. And for a long time, there were no confirmations from Marvel or Raimi about that. But now there is. Sam Raimi himself talked about it during a press junket for his new horror series, 50 States of Fright. That's, of course, going to be on the new 10-minute streamer Quibi. Or Quibbly, or whatever the hell it's called. I don't know. It's not going to be around. It's not going to be around a year from now. I don't care what the title is. What are your thoughts on this? And stay healthy. All right. Thanks a lot for saying that, man. And yes, listen, I'm not going to pull any punches here. I was really disappointed when I found out that Scott Derrickson was not going to be directing Doctor Strange 2. I thought what he did with that first one, and as a horror director himself primarily, he found a great way to balance a little bit of horror elements, some freaky elements, but also the fun DNA of an MCU movie all into one package in Doctor Strange. And I had a hell of a good time with it, and I was really looking forward to seeing what he would do in the next one, partially because he said he was going to push it even further. He said Doctor Strange 2 was going to become the first horror movie in the MCU. However, there seemed to have been some creative differences between himself and Kevin Feige, who is the ultimate authority and decides what will and will not happen in an MCU movie, that he didn't want it to go too horror because he wanted to maintain that DNA of an MCU movie all at the same time. And listen, who's going to argue with Kevin Feige? His science meddling and all this kind of stuff with the MCU has worked out in spades so far. So, of course, we heard that Scott Derrickson departed. However, a name that then emerged was, of course, Sam Raimi. And that got us really excited about it. But we never got any official confirmation, although we just kind of assumed it was true. But now we do. Sam Raimi was, in fact, being interviewed, and he said this. He goes, "I loved Doctor Strange as a kid, but he was always, after Spider-Man and Batman for me. He was probably at like number 5 for me of the great comic book characters. He was so original. But when we had that moment in Spider-Man 2, of course, remember, Sam Raimi did a little Doctor Strange name drop in Spider-Man 2 when the conversation between Peter and J. Jonah, it was a great moment. Doctor Strange, that's great. Oh, it's already taken. Like, it was just such a great moment. But anyway, but when we had that moment in Spider-Man 2, I had no idea that we would ever be making a Doctor Strange movie. So it was really funny to me that coincidentally, that line was in the movie. I gotta say, I wish we had the foresight to know that I was going to be involved in the project. That, of course, is from Sam Raimi. Couple of interesting things in there, Rob. Number one, the throwback, of course, to to that moment in Spider-Man 2, which was really, really fun. I miss J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah. I think he's so great in that. But anyway, now we get it. And I'll tell you what, Rob, it's perfect. It's perfect. Look, all other things being equal, I would rather see Scott Derrickson back directing this film. Yes. But in Sam Raimi, you have a guy who has crushed it with horror, but specifically horror that knows how to implement fun and levity and entertainment in at the same time. That has been Sam Raimi's MO for a lot of his career, and he's great at it. You were also talking about a guy with absolutely impeccable credentials, Spider-Man 3 notwithstanding, but incredible credentials when it comes to just making superhero movies. Of course, Spider-Man 1, one of the forefathers of the modern superhero movie movement, and of course, Spider-Man 2, which I believe to this day is still a top 10 greatest comic book movie of all time. These are incredible credentials, Rob, to bring to something like this. And yeah, I would still rather see Scott Derrickson there, but hey, if you got to replace him, a Sam Raimi is a fabulous choice for that. I love the idea. I'm excited about this. Rob, now that we know it's pretty much concrete, how are you feeling right now about a Sam Raimi stepping in for Doctor Strange 2?
Well, I've got great big love for Sam Raimi. I've always loved him. I've loved him since The Evil Dead. I actually was a production assistant on Army of Darkness. I loved A Simple Plan that he did, Drag Me to Hell. I think it's a great choice.
Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah, I think it's a great choice. I do worry one thing about this. Sam Raimi has a tendency to go a little goofy, and I hope he pulls back his more goofy Darkman Army of Darkness impulses for this. But then again, Doctor Strange requires a certain level of goofiness. It's not like Dormammu was the pinnacle of verisimilitude. So maybe look, Sam Raimi making a movie called The Multiverse of Madness, I'm in. Let's just say, bring it on, son, as John Schnepp would say. Yes. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I think this is a great move and a great idea in general. I mean, especially, again, look, we've talked about the idea that Sam Raimi, with his background, with the credentials that he brings, he's done horror, he's done comic book movies, he knows how to make it fun and entertaining, which is something that Kevin Feige really likes. And I'll tell you what, Rob, I agree with you because, what we don't want to repeat of is we don't want to see, emo Stephen Strange doing a dance in front of a coffee shop. We don't want to see that. But he is now also working with, let's be honest, the most studio interference in all of Hollywood, which is the Marvel Studios, and that's Kevin Feige. But that's a good thing here. Kevin Feige knows how to help his filmmakers really bring out the best of their films and really to make sure it's in line with the DNA of the MCU. And I think you get a guy like Sam Raimi working with a Kevin Feige. I think that's going to turn out really well. The question here, guys, is now that it seems to be all official, how do you guys feel about Sam Raimi directing Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness? I'm stoked for it. I think it's a great idea. Maybe you have some trepidation about it. Maybe you still have the bad taste of Spider-Man 3 in your mouth. I don't know, but jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our fifth and final main topic today. And our fifth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Hamid Ensaf, who writes, "Hey, John. I was in Box Office Mojo the other day, and I realized something. Could this be the first year in movie history, well, since 2007, that we don't get a single movie joining the $1 billion club? That would be over 13 years, more than a decade. Your thoughts? Thanks for everything you do, and keep up the great work." All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, Hamid. And yeah, listen, Rob and I had this conversation a number of months ago, coming out of like the most insane box office year with a record number of $1 billion films that will never be equaled again, I don't believe. But we also talked about earlier this year about what do we think about 2020? What films do we expect to hit $1 billion? And we talked about there's a number of films that have the possibility and blah, blah, blah. And we'll see what happens. But now we live in a different set of circumstances. When the movie theaters open back up, we are not going to see everybody flooding back. I think there's going to be a lot of people just chomping at the bit to get back in theaters. There are going to be some people who take a more cautious, nervous approach and maybe wait to see for a little while before they get back in. And so now, not only do we have films asking, are these films in and of themselves potentially $1 billion films? We're now asking the question, can these films, in the circumstance of a post-lockdown world when it's going to take a little while for the movie theater to really be back up and humming at 1,000%, and everybody's going out to see these movies and all that kind of stuff. Different people have different opinions about how we as an audience are going to respond to that come September, October, November, things like that, particularly when a lot of these big movies start hitting the theaters. It is a fascinating statistic, though, Rob, when you look at it. The notion that every year has had at least $1 billion film. None in 2007, only one barely in 2008, which I think might have been The Dark Knight. Was 2008 when The Dark Knight came out? I can't remember. But one film barely hit the $1 billion mark in 2008. But then every year since has had at least one film join the $1 billion club. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. I think there are a couple of films that have the potential to do it. I think Black Widow, being a MCU movie, has that potential. I don't think it will. I didn't think it would even before the lockdown, but it does have the potential to do it. I think a James Bond, depending on how good the film is, has the potential to be that. I thought a Fast 9 had the potential to be that, but it's not opening till 2021 now anyway.
Justice for Han.
Of course. So I think there are a few films that have possibilities, but Rob, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. Whereas I believe, including this pack of movies we got coming out in November, whereas I believe a lot of these movies can do very well and do very well, do good business, be very happy with their results. I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say I do not believe any film this calendar year will hit that $1 billion mark. I thought it was a little iffy before the lockdown. Right now, I just think there's just going to be too many people, I believe, that aren't willing to get back into the flow of going to the movie theaters yet. So I'm going to say no film this year. Several will be successful, but I don't think any film this year is going to join that $1 billion club. Rob, as you look at the forecast that we got in front of us and you look at the lineup of films, we got some really big, strong, popular IPs coming out. What do you see the chances of any of these films joining the $1 billion club this year?
Well, John, I think that's a very cogent analysis that you gave, and I don't disagree. I think that we just don't have, we're not going to have the movie-going confidence. Again, it all comes down to testing. Right now, we don't know who's got the disease and who doesn't because we don't have enough tests. If they have a comprehensive testing of people and they know where the virus is and where it isn't, and they can get consumer confidence back to where it needs to be to get our businesses open, then maybe. But I don't see that happening. We can't test our entire population now, and until we can't think about opening our economy effectively, and we certainly can't think about, I couldn't knowingly go to a movie theater without knowing I could come back home and not bring a virus back into the house. We have to have been tested. And I just think we're not going to be there. I want to be there, Dan. We talk about it like you were talking about it. Dude, I want to go to a Mexican restaurant and have a margarita. I want to hear the clink of glasses. I want to walk into the ArcLight and smell the popcorn, man. I want to do what you do. I want to try for the first time the John Campea delivering butter to my popcorn with a drinking straw. I don't like butter on my popcorn, but I'm going to do it when I get back. I'm going to try that. I've always wanted to try that secretly. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be so happy to get back into a movie theater, but we have to do it safe and smart. Because you know what it'll do? If we aren't ready, and we go back and movie theaters are the cause of a second wave of this virus, we're dead. The who knows when you'll get confidence back. You get one chance to get our consumers back into the movie theaters, and you've got to do it smart, and you've got to do it carefully. So
you don't think right now that by November, enough people will be willing to be going out and do that, let alone July.
Look,
but November's when the big movies are coming. So what do you think?
I'm an eternal optimist, and I want to believe, John. I'm Fox Mulder in the X-Files. I want to believe. I have a mental poster of that Fox Mulder's poster in my mind. That's the kind of person I am. I want to believe, and we have the potential to do that. We certainly can do it, and I think that we can. I can't wait to be in the movie theaters in November, but I don't know if enough moviegoers are going to be in the theaters by November to push a movie beyond $1 billion.
Yeah, and I'm there too. I think we're going to see. I think Bond is going to do well. I think Black Widow will do well. I think Godzilla versus I'm not sure how good Godzilla versus Kong is going to do. I think
Come on, dude, it's going to rule.
I hope so. I can't. My heart can't take another disappointment to me like King of the Monsters was. And I know you loved it, and a bunch of other people did too. But financially, it didn't do great. I mean, it didn't do great financially. But I think a lot of these films are going to do well. But I agree with you. I just don't think. Listen, too many people take that $1 billion number for granted. Like now, because this happened every year, everybody thinks, a movie that's just any movie if it's half decent can hit $1 billion. Listen, the $1 billion mark is a monumental achievement under normal circumstances. And I just don't know that. No, it's not that I don't know. I really don't believe at all that any of them, with even the slightest bit of headwind against them, can actually hit that mark. And I just don't think this year is going to be the year. So I think this is going to be the first. 2020 will be, I believe, the first year since 2007 to not actually hit a film with $1 billion. And I think that has a lot to do with it. Anyway, guys, what do you think about that? I wanted to know your opinion on this so much that I made that the topic of today's question of the day. So I went over to my Twitter, which you can find just simply at John Campea right there. And just before the show started, I put up a poll asking you guys this question. The last time that no film joined the $1 billion club was 2007. Do you think 2020 will go without a new member, or can Bond, Black Widow, or another film pull it off? We talk about this more. And right now, a little over 2,100 of you guys have answered that question so far, and it's closer than I thought it would be. 59.3% of you guys are saying no films this year will join the $1 billion club. And I agree with you. I still think films can do well, but I don't think they're going to join the $1 billion club. But Rob, listen to this. A full 40.7% of the people are saying, yeah, we do think one of these movies can still hit $1 billion this year. So there's your optimism and consumer confidence right there. So right now, again, 59.3% of you guys out of the 2,100 of you voted are saying no films will hit $1 billion. 40.7% of you are saying yes, it will do at least $1 billion. I'm going to leave that poll up there for the rest of the day, guys. But in the meantime, what do you guys think? Do you think any of these higher profile films not just do well, but can they hit that $1 billion mark this year? Or will this be the first year since 2007 to not do it? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With all that down and out of the way, Rob and I are now going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be taking the live questions. 2 different ways you guys can send in live questions. The best way to send them in is to use this link right here. You can see the link in the top line of the description of this video. Simply at streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. That you can send in your question that way. Or another way you can do it is just by using the super chat feature here on YouTube. And we will get to those live questions when we get back. But for now, Rob and I are going to take a short break, give ourselves a chance to rest the vocal cords, stretch the legs, refill our drinks, give you a chance to run and use the bathroom. So hang tight with us, guys. Don't go anywhere. Robert and I will be right back. Guys, and we are back. Thank you for your patience and indulgence as we took a little bit of a break there. And now let's dive in and start getting to your live questions. And we're going to get things started off here with K Major, who writes, "Hey, John, I know you don't like Clone Wars. That's true. I'm not a fan of the show. Myself, hate the movie, love the show. But and there's a lot of people who love that show, man. You're not alone. But do you think we could have benefited from seeing Clone Wars from the perspective of more unknown characters and or Jedi? Isn't that what Rebels did? Maybe off, I don't know. See, I don't know, like from a philosophical point of view, part of the thing that turned me off about Clone Wars was just the fact that I know what happens to each and every one of these characters ultimately. It's one thing when you see a story where you know what happens ultimately to one character, but I know what happens to Obi-Wan, and I know what happens to Anakin, and I know what happens to Grievous, and I know what happens to, I know what happens to all of them. I know what happens to every one of them. And then just the storytelling didn't work for me personally. But listen, a lot of people love it. So, considering how much fandom it has, I don't think it would be a good idea to change it. And I'm saying that as somebody who doesn't like the show. There are a lot of people who really, really love this show, and they love it from the point of view that it is told from. So maybe it would have worked a little better for me personally if they told it from totally different characters' points of view of that time period. Maybe, but the fact of the matter is, it's not about me. The vast majority of the fans really do like it, and so I think you got to keep it the way that it is. Anyway, let's move on here. Michael C. writes, "Is HBO Max still starting next month? 80% of America is at home looking for something to watch, so where is the big push? Where are the advanced sign-up deals?" And actually, you know what? I was just wondering that same thing the other day myself, Rob. It's like, why this is the perfect time to have an HBO Max. I haven't heard that they're delaying or anything, but, where is all these pushes right now? Do you think it's going to hit the airwaves on time?
It's hard to say. The one thing about HBO Max is it's not like it's a new brand like Quibi that they have to tell you that a Quibi is an increment of time from 1 to 10 minutes. People know HBO. So I think they need a lot shorter window of time to get people into it. But I don't know, man. They just announced the Peacock is available today if you're a Comcast subscriber, but the population, the general public, has to wait till July. But with HBO Max, I have no idea. I really don't. But I will say this, John, I forgot to mention it. Today is the 37th anniversary or birthday of Flashdance. What a feeling.
No.
Yes.
Is that movie that old?
Dude, Flashdance is 37.
First when there's nothing.
I knew you could.
Oh, my
song and dance, man.
Man, 37 years old, that movie?
37 years old.
God. Okay, anyway, thanks for that. All right, Willow writes, "Has the movie theater business always been a razor-thin margin, or has there been a time when it was actually lucrative? If so, what has changed?" That's a very good question. I don't know. I mean, listen, over the years, more and more, studios collected a bigger and bigger chunk of what was coming out. As a matter of fact, a lot of people misunderstand this, but the percentage that the theater takes also changes as the longer that a movie's in the theaters. For example, it's not unheard of. It's actually quite normal that on a first weekend, when a movie does most of its business, studios take 90% of the box office. There have been some examples, for instance, some of the new Star Wars movies, particularly when the prequels came out, Lucasfilm wouldn't let studios or wouldn't let movie theaters show them unless they agreed, number one, to keep the movie in the theaters for, if you're going to put it in one of your theaters, you got to keep it in there for at least 6 weeks or something like that, which is fine, except that at an 8-plex, that meant they couldn't open Star Wars on all 8 of their screens because then they'd be committing to having it on 8 screens. Plus, Lucasfilm made, you know how much, Rob? You know how much the movie theaters kept the first weekend of those Star Wars movies?
No.
Zero.
Really?
They kept zero. None. That was a big deal that Lucasfilm kept 100% of all that kind of stuff. And that's just what you had. If you were the movie theaters, you just had to smile and say, "Thank you, sir," and take it. If you wanted to show Star Wars, and Disney has also been a hardball player with theaters with their Star Wars. We say, "You want a Star Wars movie, $1 billion film, going to get a lot of people to think, okay, you got to play by our rules." And so as far as I know, Willow, in my limited, I'm not an expert on theater history, but yeah, I can't ever think of a time when the theaters were like a big lucrative business. They are razor thin margins. Rob, can you think of a time when it was different than that?
No, I mean not really. Again, but I don't know like the box office history of the last 100 years of cinema. So maybe it was different at one point because, they used to have organists come in and play during the silent era. And maybe it was different, but I would suspect probably not that much different. I want to know now, John. I want to look into this. I want to
look into it too. All right. Next up here, Colby Harris writes, today is the 108th, and speaking of anniversaries, today is the 108th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic. Man, it's I don't know. Maybe it's like the part of me that thinks they had boats 108 years ago. I don't know. It feels weird to think about that, but man, 108 years ago, it's the anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic. Honestly, I'm not a historian, but I'm always fascinated by documentaries and history about Titanic and all that kind of stuff. It's always fascinated me. Thanks for that, man. The Nerd Errant writes, too bad Wall Street didn't shut down for this. The growth every quarter or bust attitude is the opposite of what business needs right now. This may have hurt AMC far more than a lack of operation alone. Well, I'm not really sure about that. I mean, the fact that AMC had a great business plan that included them going heavily into debt to do all these upgrades with their services and upgrades with their theaters and to make a great experience for people and then start making money. Unfortunately, this thing hit at the wrong time, and I think lack of operating capital really is a big thing, but you're right, man. It is a systemic problem that goes far beyond just the simple accolades that we seem to be giving it. Django19 writes, John, yesterday I asked about Cop Car. You didn't know about it. I forgot. It's the dude who directed Spider-Man Homecoming. I totally forgot. Yeah. It was his movie that got this. Like at first, which was Cop Car again? I totally forgot about that at the time. Anyway, it came out in 2015, directed by John Watts before the Spider-Man movies. John Watts, of course, the director of Homecoming and Far From Home. That's the movie that got him in the MCU fans' radar. It's a short R-rated thriller with Kevin Bacon on Netflix, worth a watch. I would disagree with you, though, Django. It didn't put him on their radar. Most fans never heard of it, and most fans didn't see it. It's what put him on, I believe, Sony and Marvel's radar, but I don't really think it put him on the fans' radar very much. Rob, what do you think about that?
No, yeah, I don't think so either. I'm with you on that one, 100%.
But you're all right. It is the one that got him the gig. It is the one that got him the gig for absolute sure.
And I think it's a really good movie. I mean, I loved it.
All right, let's move on here. Christian34 writes, hey, John and Rob, hope all is well. Thank you so much, Christian. So 2 questions. One, just saw the Straight Story again. Great movie. Do you like David Lynch movies and Twin Peaks 2? Did you hear that they are making National Treasure 3? Love the first 2. Do you like them? Stay safe. And we'll tackle one of the questions. Yeah, we actually talked about the National Treasure thing the other day. Listen, we've been doing stories for years about they keep whispering, oh, we still want to do National Treasure 3. We still want to do National Treasure 3. And just recently, listen, there's no green light at this point. Let's be clear. There is no green light for National Treasure 3, but they are developing it. And, a lot of times films that are getting developed never make it to the screen, but sometimes they do. So it's going to be interesting to see if this really happens, Rob. Rob, if you had to give a percentage chance right now, what do you think the chances are? Understanding they're trying to make it happen. What do you think the chances are we get a National Treasure 3?
In this day and age, I mean, I would imagine the plot of National Treasure 3 is about how actually National Treasure 3 would get made.
Right.
Nothing. We live in wondrous times, John. You just never know. And I think Nicolas Cage is on a roll, man. After Color Out of Space, come on. I think National Treasure 3 would be Nicolas Cage's great return to the big screen. Why not? Who doesn't love those movies? Why not make Sahara 2 next?
I am ready for the Rent-A-Cage. I am totally ready for the Rent-A-Cage. I think he's still one of the most fun guys to watch on screen. But
you've got to see Color Out of Space.
Oh, well, he just did that one, like Mandy. Did you see?
It will. Yes, I own Mandy. Panos.
And Color Out of Space is that horror one, right? With the asteroid and the alien thing. Yeah.
Based on an H.P. Lovecraft story. It was directed by Richard Stanley, who directed Hardware and Dust Devil. His triumphant return to the cinema. And let me tell you, it is damn triumphant. But Nicolas Cage, peak Nicolas Cage, let me tell you.
I love Nick Cage. All right, Johnny Five writes, with all due respect, I don't know which Tron Legacy movie you guys watched, but the one I saw was awesome. I love that movie. Remember now, Disney is currently building a Tron roller coaster in Florida, so I say yes, a third movie will happen. Let me tell you right now, the fact that they're building a roller coaster means dipshit. It means nothing as far as what they're going to do in the movies. Building a roller coaster does not mean they're going to try to relaunch a movie franchise. But I will tell you what, Johnny, you're not alone. There are people out there that really did like that movie. There are people like Robert and I who were rather disappointed in it, and it is what it is. But that's the beauty of the subjectivity film. Just because we didn't like it doesn't mean you can't like it. Nay, doesn't mean you can't love it if you do. And look, there are upsides to it. Visually, it was really cool. The Jeff Bridges stuff was nice. The Daft Punk soundtrack was really good. And listen, it is possible. The director said the other day, there's still hope alive for it. I still doubt it'll happen, but I would never say it's not possible. I think it's still on, obviously, some people's radars, and it very well could happen. But I don't think them building a roller coaster has anything to do with it. I really don't. Okay, Joshua Wilborn writes, what are your thoughts on how companies like Disney are going to handle their original plans to announce new movies/shows with there not being a Comic-Con and most likely D23 this year? Well, honestly, Joshua, it's business as usual. Disney never made all their announcements at Comic-Con, and they didn't have D23 every year. So it's really not a big deal. Quite often, they just make an announcement by putting out a tweet. I mean, we've seen some big major Disney announcements made from just Disney hopping on Twitter and announcing something on Twitter. It's really not going to affect them. And listen, there's still a possibility Comic-Con happens this year. I think every day that passes, those chances diminish. But there's still a chance that happens. But look, even if it does or doesn't, and even if it does happen and Disney doesn't go, it's really not going to change their operating process really all that much. They'll just make announcements by dropping an announcement, pretty much. I don't know. Rob, do you think they could do that, or do you think they might hold a special closed, they get Kevin Feige on stage at the El Capitan Theater, empty El Capitan Theater, and just doing a kind of like Andre Bocelli just did that Easter concert from the cathedral, right? So you got Kevin Feige from an empty theater giving a big, I don't know, but really, I don't see it affecting them that much. Do you?
No. And look, we're looking at some very innovative things. I mean, Saturday Night Live was done with everybody at home this past weekend. And I watched some of that Andre Bocelli thing, and it was quite moving. And I'll tell you, if Kevin Feige went and did a thing from the El Capitan like he did that one thing that you were at that years ago, right?
Was the Phase 3 announcement. I was there.
The Phase 3 announcement. If he did that, I mean, they would get tens of thousands of people to tune in. And you could bring
tens of thousands, dude. I think you get hundreds of thousands of people tuning into that.
Okay, I was, hundreds of thousands. Yes, absolutely. And you could bring the stars in. They could Skype in, and they could be, on a screen behind him, like the Kryptonians at the beginning of Superman the movie. Guilty. He'd be Jor-El, and then he would have like the MCU actors on a giant screen Skyping in. I would watch that. I mean, I would watch that for all day long. He should just do like an all-day long 10-hour show and raise money for charity and just have all the MCU stars come on every half hour. I would watch that. I bet they'd make tens of millions of dollars.
Listen, I'll tell you what, though. Make no mistake. Doing a big event at an event like Comic-Con or D23, that's preferable, sure. But you can do that. Hell, Rob, they just did Saturday Night Live. They just did an episode of Saturday Night Live with Tom Hanks hosting, and everybody was at home. Tom Hanks did the opening monologue from home. Everybody Skyped in their things. You could do something like this. It could be really cool.
Yep.
Could be really cool.
I'm in.
All right, let's move on here. Let's see here. Orange Hand writes, as you can imagine, there's a fair share of pathetic losers upset over Denis Villeneuve casting a black woman as Leet Kynes. I never know how to pronounce that. They never stop, do they? Honestly, though, I gotta say that while I have seen some of the pathetic losers, it actually hasn't been all that bad. I think partially because just some people don't even realize it's happening yet. But honestly, I haven't seen too much of an uproar over that. Rob, have you noticed? Because I haven't noticed it be too bad, to be honest.
Well, I think there's some people. Look, you could make an argument that Leet Kynes in the books was sort of the leader of the Fremen, not sort of, but that their nature and philosophy has a lot to do with the character. But I don't have a problem with, like I talked about this yesterday, Battlestar Galactica, when they gender swapped Starbuck. Everyone's like, oh my God, how did you do that? Katie Sackhoff kicked ass as Starbuck. And I don't think that making those kinds of changes is necessarily a bad thing if they're done correctly. I think the reason it wasn't so much a social justice warrior thing as they probably wanted to see, more women in the story. And the story does take place 10,000 years from now, in the year 10,191. And I think that it's okay. It's going to be okay. And if you're living on Arrakis, it makes sense to me that there would be people of color there, because if you've lived there for a while, the same thing would happen on this planet. You'd develop more melanin in your skin. So it's like, that's what the Fremen would look like, that they're living on a desert planet. So it's not like they're making this, not so, it's pragmatism, and that's biology. So I have no problem with it.
All right, next up, Orange Hand also writes, did you ever watch the Jays playoff runs in 15-16? Listen, I'm not a baseball fan, but I will get caught up in the playoffs of almost every sport. Because there's drama in the playoffs of sports, and I'll follow the Canadian teams because I follow the Canadian teams. Tyler Van writes, when a movie is non-linear or has flashbacks, is that the director's choice to make the movie that way, or is it already in the script? 95% of the time it's already in the script. Maybe even like 98% of the time it's already in the script. And if the director wants to do that, he'll have the screenwriters go back and write it into the script. So for the most part, it's in the script. Rob, I mean, there are times when a filmmaker can pull a fast decision in the editing room to do something like that, but I think most of the time it's something that would be present in the script. Would it not?
I think it would be. But unless nowadays, with what's really interesting about movies nowadays, John, is they shoot these movies and they give them time to make changes, as evidenced by the sacrifice scene, in Endgame. That we saw there's two very different versions of Hawkeye and Black Widow, and they probably made that change in the edit bay and went back and reshot a whole new thing. So it should be in the script, but now they do have the option if they need to. So, but I do think mostly it's things like that are in the script.
All right, next up, we got Jesse Lopez, who writes, John Francis Daley, one of the writer of a lot of really good movies, and he directed Game Night, which I thought, he and his partner directed Game Night, which I thought they did a great job on that. And he was supposed to direct the Flash movie, by the way, one of 18 directors that was supposed to direct it that have come and gone. John Francis Daley took to Twitter shortly after the Ezra Miller choking a fan incident and happened and tweeted, creative differences. Any thoughts on Daley possibly throwing shade at Miller? Oh, we talked about this on the show. To make no mistake about it, he was totally tossing shade at Ezra Miller, and totally rightfully so. Listen, I have said a million times on the show, I am a fan of Ezra Miller. I like Ezra Miller as the Flash. I know there's a bunch of people that don't. I personally do. That being said, I thought Ezra Miller way overstepped his bounds as an actor. And went behind the director's backs. He sabotaged the director's plans. The directors were on and set for a Flash movie. The studio was on board, and then all of a sudden Ezra Miller started whining about it, and he wanted his own version of Flash and blah, blah, blah. And finally the directors just said, fine, we're gone over creative differences. Make no mistake about it. They were absolutely, and that was the official statement given, creative differences. Make no mistake about it. That was absolutely him tossing shade at Ezra Miller, and rightfully so. And rightfully so. So yeah, absolutely he was. Nosferatu writes, oh, bow wow, chica chica. Oh, I can't remember what that's from. I know that. Rob, do you know it?
No, it rings a bell, though.
It instantly rings a bell, but I can't remember it. Russell Amador writes, hey, John, it's cool hearing Raimi confirm he's directing Doctor Strange sequel. I'm a huge fan of pretty much all of his work, from The Great Spider-Man 2 to the Amazing Evil Dead trilogy and Drag Me to Hell. Fingers crossed Bruce Campbell makes a cameo appearance. And listen, I've heard Bruce Campbell say he would like to do that. I've heard Bruce Campbell say he would like to do an appearance in that movie, and I'm all for it. And listen, I will tell you what, unpopular opinion. I'm going to give you the unpopular opinion. I liked Raimi's Wizard of Oz movie. I did. Not one of the greatest movies of the year that it came out. No, I mean, it had its issues. I had fun with this Wizard of Oz movie, but I am totally on board for this. And Rob and I, we've already discussed this. We're both on board. I love Drag Me to Hell. I think Drag Me to Hell is a really fun film.
Heck yeah.
And not a lot of people talk about it anymore, but if you haven't seen Drag Me to Hell, it's a good, fun little horror movie, man. Go check it out. Okay. Let's see. Amir writes, "Hey guys, movie recommendation today is Margin Call. It's based on the 2008 financial crisis, but it's also quite relevant to today with the global markets having a rough time. Amazing cast and someone who works in the industry. I can say it's very realistic." Now, is that not the one with the dude who plays Spock?
Zachary Quinto.
Yes. I think. Let me look it up here.
Yeah.
I think it's the one with Quinto. Came out in like 2010, 2011.
He was also partially responsible for getting it made.
That's right. And listen to this cast. Zachary Quinto, Demi Moore, Stanley Tucci, Paul Bettany, Jeremy Irons, Kevin Spacey. I know it's hard to say Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey. That was a hell of a lineup. Didn't get a lot of love, Rob. Didn't get a lot of love.
I liked it. I think it's really good.
Yeah, and I'm just a big fan of Zachary Quinto, so I check out anything he's in and really enjoy it. So good recommendation, Amir. All right, next one up. An anonymous viewer writes, "There are 3 certainties in life: death, taxes, and Geeky Gator getting a topic picked out of the hundreds of emails to appear on the show multiple times per week. Hashtag Geeky Gators and Campea." Nope. Like I've explained it several times. There's a viewer, for those of you who don't know, named Geeky Gator who I keep explaining how this happens. And people don't take advantage of it, even though I give them the inside scoop about how they get it. Listen, the thing is, when Sam Raimi gets confirmed as the director for Doctor Strange 2, 100 people send in an email about that. I can only pick one of them, right? And then a few people send in other topics. The thing that our viewer Geeky Gator does, who I do not know and I have never met, but will often send in questions regarding other news stories that day that not everybody is talking about. And so often you'll see those get picked because he's actually talking about a story we want to talk about and nobody else has written in and asked about it. So that happens a lot. And it just so happens that they write that types of questions. And Rob, I've explained this to people before. This is how they do it. So you'd think that more people would start writing in questions like that, but they don't. Sam Raimi gets thing and still like 100 or 200 emails about that, understandably so, because it's a big topic. But I can only pick one of those. I still got 4 other topics we got to pick. And Geeky Gator just seems to have that strategy down of how to write in topics that are actually relevant to talk about on the show that nobody else is writing in about. So it is what it is.
Gotta be quick on the draw on this show, dude.
Got to be quick on the draw on the show. Frank Van Wardenhuizen writes, "Yes, guys, you can butcher my name again." And I'm the worst with names. Warhuizen. Anyway, you can. A long time since my last super chat. My guilty pleasures: Nightmare on Elm Street, Fright Night, and Friday the 13th remakes. Oh, the Friday the 13th remake. Oh, really? With Padalecki dude, Palecki guy. Remakes and Disney Tangled, and the last gets no love. Actually, don't call Disney Tangled a guilty pleasure. That's a damn fine little movie. Zach. Levi is one of the. I think Mandy Moore and Zach Levi are the 2 lead the voices in that one. That is a fun little movie. I don't know anybody that dislikes that one. But Rob, those remakes those are the great examples of guilty pleasures. Because I don't have any love for those 3. But what about you?
No, I am not a fan of those remakes. I love Fright Night. And I kind of feel like these remakes are like how I felt about Dawn of the Dead, the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead. I was diametrically opposed to Dawn of the Dead. The original Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm like, how dare you? How dare you remake this movie? But it was okay. James Gunn wrote the script. Respectable film. Really enjoyed it. I think the first 10 minutes is some of the greatest zombie stuff ever. Now, I kind of feel that way about Fright Night. The Fright Night remake.
I'm not going to lie to you. Actually, I don't mind the Fright Night remake. The one with Chekhov.
Anton Yelchin.
Anton Yelchin, yeah.
Yeah, and I love Fright Night. Fright Night to me is peak 80s comedy horror. It's got great effects. Richard Edlund shot 65 millimeter effects for that. But the other 2, Nightmare on Elm Street, no. And I wanted Jackie Earle Haley to blow me away, but I'm like, no.
And it
No,
wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault.
no,
I mean,
it just was missing something like goodness.
all right, like goodness. It's missing something like goodness. There's a quote for a movie poster right there. All right, Anthony Lucalano writes, the day they announced Tron 3, I'm downing a bottle of Jameson and doing a merry jig. I'm not even kidding. I'll be that happy. Listen, somebody else wrote in a little bit earlier, they love Tron Legacy. There are a bunch of people who do, and there are some upside. And listen, a lot of people love Tron and would love to see it make a grand return, Anthony, so you won't be alone, I'm sure. The Sock writes, hey, John, I won't see this anytime. I won't see this anytime soon because I'm so far behind on the show, but my tests have come back negative regarding COVID-19. Excellent. That's good to hear. Good that you even got tested. If the doctor thinks I'm well enough, I may get discharged today. Nice. But I'll still have to take time to get my strength back up. Oh, absolutely, man. But at least, hey, listen, at least here's the main thing. And this is where a lot of people get confused. A lot of people think, oh, if I get, the COVID-19, I'll be fine. Well, yeah, the odds are you will be totally fine. But the thing is that everybody forgets you become a transmitter at that point. And you're going to get other people sick. And so just to hear the Sock, first of all, that you're recovering, awesome. That you may be getting out soon, awesome. And the fact that you tested negative is also awesome. So good on you, man. And all best wishes to you, my friend. All right. Michael Jones writes, and thanks for sending in a tip that large, Michael. We appreciate that. Deadline is currently running its countdown of the biggest profitable movies of 2019. They have tables showing the numbers, and it doesn't look like they used box office. Could you or Rob go look at a few and see if I'm reading this right? Thanks. Well, obviously, I can't do that right now. We can't do that at the moment, but that does sound like an interesting article, and I will absolutely go and check that out at some point, Michael. And maybe we'll talk about that a little bit on tomorrow's show. We'll wait and see. But that actually sounds like a really, really interesting topic. Thank you for putting that on my radar, dude. I think myself and everybody else watching the show right now appreciates you for that. All right. Dick Carabast writes, has Disney become too big to fail? Hashtag pray for Disney. Dude, listen. There is no such thing. There's just no such thing. Does anybody remember MySpace? It was inconceivable, Rob, for a while. Everybody just assumed at some point MySpace was going to own the world. A lot of people forget about that. MySpace was going to own the world. It was the biggest thing. Everybody was on MySpace. Everybody was guess what? Nobody. There are probably 30% of the viewers of the show right now. I just said the words MySpace and they don't even know what we're talking about.
John, Tom is still my friend.
Tom is still my friend.
Tom is still my friend. I want to get that shirt.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good shirt.
That picture of him like in the t-shirt or whatever.
All right, let's move on here. Ramarama 30 writes, and thank you for sending a super chat that big, man. With AMC going under, I think it's an opportunity for Regal Cinemas to carve out even more profits and expand, as well as small and emerging theaters. It's sad, but studios have their own financial woes to deal with. No. You think Regal is in any kind of financial position right now to expand? No. Mom and pops are also not in a position to expand. See, that's the thing. That's part of the reason that's make this whole thing worrisome for the entire industry. Is that it's not like everybody had the money of, like Regal's in a position, if only AMC wasn't there, we could do this vicious expansion. No, they couldn't. They can't. They're not in a position either. And this whole situation right now has just made it even worse for everybody. And that's why, like, studios right now are trembling at the very, like, that they're loving hearing this WANDA thing saying, no, just a rumor that we're going bankrupt. But I mean, the studios heads are staying up late at night and waking up screaming in cold sweats at the notion that AMC may not open its doors again. Because that will kill their finances. That'll kill them.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it will.
It's not just a matter of, because nature abhors a vacuum, Rob. We know that. But it's not like, they're gone. Great. All this expansion. Who's going to expand? Who's got the money to do that? Who's not suffering right now? And that's the problem. If there was an easy fix like that, then the industry wouldn't be worried. AMC would be worried, but the industry wouldn't be worried. The industry right now is trembling. It's absolutely trembling. I don't know, Rob, how would you address that?
I
think you're exactly right. I mean, no one's ever seen anything like this. And I think everybody's sort of terrified because it's almost like I can't even conceive of how do you turn. It's not just one tap that has to get turned on, John. It's taps in all different industries that service. I mean, for a movie theater to run, you need a bunch of other things to run. You need popcorn, and you need the trucks to bring the popcorn. You need the candy companies to be making the candy that you can bring to the store, that the truck drivers will bring to the store, and the people that are working in the candy companies. And you need to get the sugar to make the candy. I mean, there's just it's just a ripple effect. And I'm sure, like you said, opening a movie theater, sure, it seems like it's an easy thing to do, but it's not.
But it's not. No, it's not, and it's not easy to run it and easy to cheap it. That's why studios haven't even been interested in the idea of owning their own theaters, really. Anyway, we got to keep moving here quickly. Superman Steve writes, John, my incredible wife and I just wanted to thank you for your show. Thank your show for the Netflix recommendation of Kim's Convenience. Absolutely hilarious. Just a truly brilliant script. Highly recommend. Thank you again. And this is a great example, guys, of why it's awesome when you guys send in recommendations, because even when I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, other people are hearing your recommendations, and we've had a few people writing in recommendations for Kim's Convenience, and you had an effect, because now Superman Steve and his wife watched it and they loved it, and they had that great experience because you guys wrote in the recommendation. So that's awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and both Ann and I are looking forward to watching it ourselves, so thanks for that. Man Mountain Gherkin writes, Star Trek versus Star Wars. Who do you think has had the strongest acting over the years? I give the edge to Star Trek, especially Patrick Stewart and Brett Spinner. Yeah, but you're comparing apples to oranges now, because one primarily has lived in television. One is primarily just feature films. You got to watch Patrick Stewart for 7 years? Not counting this one. You got to see Patrick Stewart for 7 years. 140 episodes, 145. How many episodes was there? I expect Rob might know this off the top of his head.
There's 178 episodes of Next Generation.
Yeah, 178 episodes of Next Generation. But by the way, because Rob, somebody wrote in the other day to ask about, Next Generation. They just watched the first season. And I said, man, because if you like the first season, awesome, because Next Generation is my favorite Star Trek show. If you like the first season, that's great. But believe me when I tell you, it's probably the weakest season. It just gets better as it goes. Because listen, Rob, seriously, you go back and watch Farpoint Station. That's the series premiere. That's the pilot of Star Trek The Next Generation. I love Jonathan Frakes. I love Patrick Stewart. I love, why am I freezing on the name of the actor who plays Data?
Brett Spiner.
It's Spiner. I love all these actors, but cinematic acting, it was not. Because they were finding their character. They were just beginning defining their characters. And then learning. And so you had that grew over time, Rob. So that grew over time. And so it's a little bit of a different thing to compare the acting in one, because, Mark Hamill jumped on Star Wars. He just had Star Wars. That was it at the time. And then he had 2 other episodes, but he didn't have 170 something episodes in 7 years and all this kind of stuff to grow into. So I think it's an apples to oranges comparison. But by the time you get into season 3, I thought the acting in Star Trek The Next Generation was actually really, really quite good. But I don't know, Rob, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it did. And also, people like John Delancey, there's some incredible actors. You had Hollywood heavyweights like Gene Simmons was in The Drumhead. The great John Anderson, who's a character actor that was been on a million different things. He was in a 3rd season episode called The Survivors. So The Next Generation had some really incredible actors in it. And it's not, I mean, literally hundreds of different actors. So it is kind of apples to oranges. Although Star Wars had Alec Guinness.
They did have Alec Guinness, who kind of gave the credibility to that. All right. Next up, Dirk Walker writes, who would you rather have hunting you down, John Wick or Sam and Dean Winchester? This will surprise you. I would rather have John Wick hunting me, because while I'm dead if he finds me, Sam and Dean Winchester would be much better trackers. Because they can also use spells and magic to locate you and find you. You have a chance of being able to hide from John Wick. You can hide from John Wick. That's your best call. So I think I would rather be hunted by John Wick, because there is no hiding from Sam and Dean. They'll find a way. Even if they have to go and get the King of Hell Crowley to figure it out where you are, they'll find you. Whereas John Wick, you may be able to stay hidden. You may be able to stay hidden. All right, 24 Savage writes, you think Sonic's a better version of the film Hop? No. But it is a better movie than Hop. No doubt. Which also had James Marsden in it. I didn't even think about it. Doesn't Hop also have James Marsden in it?
I think it does.
I actually have to, let me go double check that again. Hold on a second. Hop. Let's see. The 2011 film, which was all kinds of awful. I did not like that. But yeah, it was James Marsden, Richard Brand, Kaylee Kuko, Hank Azaria, Gary Cole, Elizabeth. I can't believe the people they got in that movie. Yeah, that movie's terrible. But no, I think it's a very, very different movie. But yes, Sonic is the better movie. I have no doubt in saying that. All right, next one. Guess the quote. Writes, in the end, the greatest snowball isn't a snowball at all. It's fear. Merry Christmas. In the end, the greatest snowball isn't a snowball at all. It's fear. Merry Christmas. You guys in the chat, do you guys know what that is? I'm drawing a blank on it. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes people put in the quotes, I'm like, oh, that rings a bell. This one's not ringing a bell for me.
Well, John, I think I could tell you what it is.
Okay, what is it?
It's from, because I looked it up. It's from The Office.
Oh, I didn't even, that's got to be a Dwight Schrute line. That's got to be a Dwight Schrute line. It has to be.
It's from Dwight. It is from Dwight.
Okay. I didn't sound at all familiar to me at all, even though I've watched every Office episode 35 times. But there's got to be a Dwight Schrute line. It's got to be a Dwight. I like it when people send in Office
You called
quotes.
the character.
It is Dwight?
It is Dwight.
Yeah, it had to be Dwight. Yeah, it's absolutely a Dwight. That's absolutely a Dwight line. All right. Just the Basics writes in. Stunts play a big part in a lot of movies. What all-time movie stunts stand out for you? I still always like the dam jump in The Fugitive. The dam jump in The Fugitive is great. It's a simple yet builds tension with an effective result. I didn't kill my wife. I don't care. It's just a great scene too. Oh, man, I don't know. When I think, it's hard for me to just think off the top of my head some of the great stunts. I mean, when you look at, first, a lot of the Indiana Jones stuff, like when you watch some of the behind-the-scenes stuff of like the first Raiders of the Lost Ark, like when they're down in the crypt in the tomb and then the wall collapses in and they had one shot to do it only, because that stunt wasn't just one individual, it was an entire team of people having to pull it off, and that was huge too. So there's stuff like that. I'd have to give it thought. But Rob, when you think about like great or iconic stunts done throughout the years, are there any that really another Indiana Jones one, being dragged behind, like literally they had this like dragging behind the car, holding onto the whip while he's being dragged on the ground, like actually being done. But do you have any that come to mind? Yes.
When I think about the first thing that popped into my mind, there is a stunt in The Road Warrior where I think it's a guy on a motorcycle, and he hits something, he goes off the road, and he flies off the motorcycle and tumbles end over end right past the camera, and you can tell it's real, and you're like, that dude must have died, but he didn't. And when I think of great stunts, that's one of the great ones. Also, the opening of The Spy Who Loved Me, the ski jump off the cliff when the British flag opens, done for real. Or of course the base jump in GoldenEye. There's a lot of great stunts that come to mind, but yeah, and also the entire chariot race sequence in Ben-Hur.
Oh, that's got to be it. Because like people died. I mean the chariot race in Ben-Hur. But you also, if you're going to talk about stunts in movies, you'd be remiss if you didn't also mention, like, say, two names come to mind for me: Jackie Chan.
Right.
Who would do one of the biggest joys of every Jackie Chan movie was watching the blooper reel at the end with the stunts go wrong. I mean, this guy's broken more bones than MMA fighters. It's crazy. But also, if you want to see ludicrous stunts being done by the star of the movie, it's the spiritual heir to the Jackie Chan throne. It's a dude by the name of Tony Jaa. And Tony Jaa, who was just recently in one of the Fast and the Furious movies, Tony Jaa did a movie called Ong Bak. 2001, 2002, 2003, somewhere in there. He did this movie called Ong Bak, Thai Warrior. And it is a terrible movie, but one of the most fun movies you'll ever watch. And Tony Jaa does all of his, and I'm telling you, I've said this for years. If Tony Jaa had been able to really get a grasp of the English language a little bit faster and a little bit more fluent, like to Jackie Chan levels, I think he would have been a big star in North America. I think they would have made him a big star. That's one that comes to mind. Hey, listen, Rob, I just noticed that we've kept you way over time here, so we're going to let you go. But Rob, in the meantime, where can people follow you and all your goodness online before they see you back on here again?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Robservations. I want to mention one person, though, in terms of stuntmen. Yakima Canute, who was a Native American stuntman who designed and staged the Ben-Hur chase, was one of the great stuntmen of all time. And he was also a rodeo star, and he was born in my home state of Washington. So he's the man.
All right, dude. Awesome as always having you here, and we'll talk to you again a little bit later. Take care, Rob.
All right. I'll see you later.
All right, guys, the one and only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, and of course, he'll be back on the show again. Listen, we still got about 15 minutes, so let's keep right on rolling with your live questions. We're going to keep things rolling here with That Was Just the Basics. Anthony Lucalano writes, just started watching With Nail and I. Oh, Rob just left. Rob loves With Nail and I. That is like one of his go-to jams. He loves that movie. For the first time, and only 7 minutes into the movie, and I'm already thinking, blimey, if I had these two for flatmates, I'd probably jump out of a window. Dude, it is so... Rob would have jumped out of his chair. I wish I had read ahead a little bit to see that that's what you were going to ask, because he like adores that movie. He talks about it all the time. So I got to make sure... I'll call Rob later and I'll say, hey, dude, check out this minute of the show because somebody wrote in to write about that movie. He'll be so tickled that you're watching that. KJ writes, actors don't watch their own stuff because they think they don't have to, or that we're above it. It just triggers uncomfortable emotions. We spend the entire movie criticizing ourselves, but actors are always looking for ways to improve. Cheers. Now, listen, most actors, and I know a lot of actors, most actors I know do watch their own stuff because they want to improve and get a little bit better. If it's a matter of I'm self-conscious, you need to get over that shit if you're going to be in the movies. You need to get over that. And I absolutely think if it's the same principle as professional athletes, after a football game is over, what the players then do next is they spend hours in the film room watching film, not to watch their opponents, but to watch themselves and to improve themselves. And I think actors really should do that as well. Not all actors do, and I think they should, but most actors do. Like at least every single actor. I don't know a single actor that doesn't watch their own stuff. So, I mean, that's just me, but I'm sure there are others who don't. All right. Amazing Guy writes in. Amazing Guy writes in. Thoughts on the film Passion of the Christ? I think it's a powerful movie. Heard a lot of controversy surrounding the film when it opened in 2004. Yeah, there was a lot of controversy around it. I'll be honest with you. Listen, I'm a big fan of Mel Gibson as a director. As a director, Mel Gibson is remarkable. Like one of the world's best. He's one of the world's best directors. I'm not the biggest fan of that one, to be honest with you. Not the biggest fan of that one. But anytime you're going to get any movie with any kind of religious symbolism, there's going to be some controversy. So that was in there. So I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I know a lot of people that like that movie. It was certainly very successful. There was talk for a long time about him doing a sequel. Maybe he still will, maybe he won't. But I am a big fan of his as director. All right. The Caribbean Great Gatsby writes, I love the name, writes, it's crazy that last year was one of the best for movie business just to have this unfortunate event this year. This should make us appreciate what we have because it could be taken from us quickly. Dude, that you're getting a little bit philosophical on us here, but I think you're absolutely right. I mean, Rob and I were talking just before the show started today about we both just want to go to a restaurant. Like I miss just being able to take part of my regular work routine is at a certain point in the day, I just grab my iPad, I go to a local, place in Burbank that has a great outdoor patio, sit outside, write my notes, listen to some music playing as people are doing their thing around and ordering some food and blah, blah. Ann and I just going out to dinner, just enjoying going out to dinner. And just the notion, the other day, let me pull up this picture here. I wasn't going to show this, but I will here. Let me pull it up. The other day, Ann and I will go out for walks at night. We will go out for walks at night when there's nobody else around, and we can maintain social distancing perfectly and all that kind of stuff. So we'll go out for walks at night. And the other night we decided to, and we suit up, we put on the mask and the gloves and stuff like that. We decided to walk to downtown Burbank. And I took a step in front of the AMC theater. This is the cathedral of movies to me. This is AMC. And look, it's already starting to fall into disrepair. Like the lights are starting to go. Look at the A in AMC theaters. Like it's a sad sight for me because this to me is a cathedral of movies. And I miss just going to the movies. I miss it so much. And also on top of that, the notion that maybe this place may never open its doors again. Like it saddens me. But you're right, man. Absolutely. Situations like this just really make me appreciate what we have and like the little things of being able to, go hang out with some friends, go to a restaurant, go to a bar, go to the movies. Just little things like that, man. It really does make you appreciate it. And I know it certainly does for me. All right, let's keep moving here. Next up, Anthony Lucalano writes, watching Richard E. Grant, which is, of course, one of Rob's favorite actors in With Nail and I. Watching Richard E. Grant in With Nail and I can't help but think he'd make a great camp as hell Dracula. I think Richard E. Grant would make a great just about anything. He's a fabulous actor. And while I did not like Rise of Skywalker, I thought he was perfect as an Imperial dude in Rise of Skywalker. He was great. I like him in just about everything he's in. He's really good. I'm not as big of a fan as Rob is, but he's great. Alton7771 just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Alton. Strange Marvel Theories writes in a $20 super chat. Thank you for supporting us on that level, man. We appreciate that. He writes, hey, John, off topic. I had a thought. Remember during Endgame, Natasha had a second Pym particle on her for her return trip home. When she fell, that Pym particle had to have activated. Did it though? First of all, I'm trying to remember that plot point. I don't remember that. Did she have a spare one on her? Did she? I don't. I've seen Endgame now like 8 or 9 times. And I don't remember that as a plot point. I don't remember that. And so if she did, would falling have done anything? I don't know that it would have necessarily. I mean, like, even speaking theoretically, because I don't even remember the plot point of her having a second Pym particle. But if she did, I think her falling, I don't know if that automatically triggers it. And if it does trigger, what does that do? I'm not really sure. Maybe there's a plot device in there somewhere, Strange Marvel Theories, that they could, which, by the way, which is a great meaning to the name of Strange Marvel Theories for you at that point. So I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about that? Jump into the comments section and let us know. That's an interesting thing to bring up, Strange Marvel. I wish I remembered the scene more so I could discuss it a little bit more, but I just don't remember more beyond that. All right. Joshua Meany writes, guilty pleasure of mine is 1997 Star Kid. Seen it? Star Kid. Hold on a sec. I don't recognize the title, but sometimes I don't recognize the title, but I have seen the movie. Let me go to it here. 1997 Star Kid. Oh, I remember this movie, but I did not see it. I remember this movie now that I see the poster. It's a very memorable poster, but I never did see this movie. It's, oh my God, when I look at the thing of it now, this movie is 23 years old now. Oh my God. So I remember this movie. I remember being out, but this one I did not see. But I'll bring up, for those of you who don't remember the poster. There's the poster there, because I'm sure a lot of you are like me and you don't recognize the title, but that's an easy to remember poster. So I'm probably sure a lot of you guys are like me, where it's like, I don't know, what is that? But you totally know that poster. But no, I got to say, I did not see it. If you guys saw, what did you think about it? Answer Joshua's question and let him know. Joseph S. writes, hey, John, huge fan. Thank you so much, Joseph. Hope you are doing well. I am so far. Thank you. I cannot wait to go back to the movies again. You and me both, brother. I hope they will open again. I have an AMC 5 minutes from my house. I want to walk inside the doors again. It's like my second home. Dude, again, like I have 3 AMC theaters within a 15-minute walk of me. 3 of them. The AMC Burbank 16, the AMC Burbank 8, and the AMC Burbank 6. And they're all great. But I particularly love going to the movies at the AMC Burbank 16. They've got the Prime Theater in there and all. It's just, I love going to the movies there. I wake up every day happy. When I know it's a day that I'm going to the movies later that day or that night. I just get excited. It's my favorite thing to do. And Joseph, you and me both, man. You and me both. All right. Carlos Sosa writes, "Hey, John, I work for Sony Pictures as a visual designer, and I found out that some people that worked on production on the lot got the virus. Crazy times." Well, listen, what did they say? 600,000 Americans. 600,000 Americans have got it. Remember when we were told in April it would disappear? Anyway, I don't want to get into politics here at all, but I'm just saying, yes, 600,000. So I am sure that includes people at Sony, and that's got to be awful, because that means if you work there, it probably means there are people who got it, and that's awful. But yeah, man, I'm not surprised to hear that. It sucks, but hopefully now with everything shut down, they've quarantined themselves. Hopefully they're on the road to recovery. Other people aren't getting affected by them. So here's hope, because in California, we're seeing the curve flatten, which is great, which means the isolation stuff and the social distancing has been working. But yeah, man, so all best wishes to you and the people who you may know who have gotten that, Carlos. Thanks for sharing that, man. All right, Eric Chapa writes, one of two. "Hi, John. Do you think that it's odd that we seemingly haven't seen anything about the Sopranos prequel, Many Saints of Newark? Apparently it's set for September this year. Of course, now things are even more complicated with coronavirus, so who knows if that date will even hold. Even before the virus, no trailers or posters, no info really. Seems odd to me, at least, that something as high profile as Sopranos isn't being put out there more. Is it odd to you or just routine? Thanks, be well." Well, yeah, listen. The thing about that is, with the original release date supposedly being in September, right? September. Let's go back to, say, the end of February. Near the end of February, when we all knew about coronavirus, but it wasn't the big major thing yet. So mid-February. So you're talking March, April, May, June, July, August, September. That movie was still 7 months away. It was still 7 months away. And by the way, some stills, the studio had put out some official stills from the movie. They had started just putting out little official stills from the movie and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, at that point, it's far too early to start a marketing campaign. It is. I really believe a studio should not really be ramping up a marketing. There will be some exceptions, but generally speaking, I don't think more than 4 months out is wise, because you're just wasting your marketing money. You know, you make a big splash 7 months early, but then everybody's forgotten about it, and then you got to just do it again. So you're just wasting money. So I'll be honest with you. I think, given the fact that when we went into lockdown, that movie was still more than 7 months away, combined with the uncertainty we have now, I don't find it unusual. I don't find it odd that we haven't been getting a lot of stuff for yet, because they probably don't even know when they're going to be putting it in theaters right now. Maybe it holds on to its September release date, but right now they don't even know for sure that the theaters are going to be open. I think they'll be open again by September, clearly, but they don't know for sure. So I'll be honest with you. I don't find it odd. I don't find it odd that we haven't seen a big marketing push for it yet. My feeling is they probably would have started their marketing push for it probably early April, early this month. I think they would have started their marketing push by now, but given the climate, I'm really not surprised. I'm not surprised right now, Eric. All right. Good observation, though. All right, next one up, and we only got a few minutes left here, guys. Secular Monk sends in a big super chat. Thank you, Secular Monk, for that. And Secular Monk writes, "Would it be possible to have two different actors playing the same character in the upcoming Marvel films? One in the MCU and another in the Deadpool universe. It could be a cool idea. Also, finally saw Cats and loved it." Hey, all films are subjective, man. If you love Cats, that's great. No, they won't do that. Look, could they do that? Yeah, they could. Kevin Feige won't have that, though. Kevin Feige will not have that. Kevin Feige will want no confusion. If they do set it up where Deadpool has its own separate universe, and I believe they will, but we don't know that for sure. But if they do, Kevin Feige will want there to be very clear, and Disney will want very clear distinctions. They will want no confusion that the Deadpool universe is that R-rated universe. That's not the thing you can bring your kids to, blah, blah, blah. And they will not have similar characters be in both. So in theory, you can if they wanted to, but Kevin Feige, more importantly, the chairman of the board of Disney, Bob Iger, would not allow that. So I don't think we should expect to see that at all. Because what Bob Iger does not want to have happen is hey, my kid loves that character. I don't know. Let's come up with an X-Men character. I don't know. Let's say Storm. My kid loves that character Storm in that Avengers movie or that MCU movie. Oh, look, Storm is going to be in this other comic book movie in the Deadpool universe. And they take their kid to it and they're talking about Women's Day while they're slapping on a strap-on. Right? That's the type of thing that Bob Iger is 100% against. And that's why, no. If they do, and we don't know that they will, but if they create two separate universes, I think you're going to see them not crossover characters. All right, guys. We have run out of time right now, so we've got to shut this thing down. But for everybody from NKS, Preston, Elijah, CE, and everybody else all the way down, do not worry. Your questions are going to get answered first up on tomorrow's show. So on tomorrow's show, your questions will be the first ones to get answered, and then we'll roll into the rest of the day's questions. So you sent in those questions. They're going to get answered properly in a video, and we'll pick those up on tomorrow's John Campea Show. Guys, that will do it for me for now for this installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you, everybody, for being here and making this show a part of your day. It really does mean a lot to us that you've got a lot of things you could be doing right now, but you choose to spend it here with us while talking about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, and it's always good to have you guys here. Hey, guys, just a couple of quick reminders about a couple things. Number one, the podcast is up and running again. So, hey, hell, even if you don't listen to the podcast, you just watch the YouTube videos, go subscribe to the podcast anyway. It just looks good on the podcast when you do. So there's that. But also for everybody who's always been asking me about all the gear that we use on the show, we are going to be doing a video for that. But right now you can find a full gear list of everything that I use. And I created Amazon affiliate links, so I might make some commission. Anyway, yeah, so that's there too. But we are going to be making a video about all of our process and the gear that we use. But for you, those of you who are curious about all the stuff that we use here in the John Campea studio, it's there right now. You can just go to simply thejohncampeashow.com/shop. Once again, that's thejohncampeashow.com/shop, and you can see the list that we have there. All right, guys. That will do it for today. Special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions, not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel while you did it. And all of us here at the John Campea Show, thank you guys very much for that. That'll do it for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. Keep the 4 things in mind, guys. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and take care of the people around you. Till next time, guys, I'm John Campea. Bye-bye.